Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I am grateful for the opportunity to bring to the House today serious issues which threaten the future of my much-loved local football club, Dulwich Hamlet, and which also have relevance for local non-league and league clubs across the country. I want to start, Mr Deputy Speaker, by expressing my heartfelt gratitude to my predecessor as MP for Dulwich and West Norwood, Baroness Jowell of Brixton, whose involvement with Dulwich Hamlet Football Club goes back a long way, and who I know is very close to the hearts of the Dulwich Hamlet supporters. I also want to thank my right honourable learned friend, the member for Camberwell and Peckham, in whose constituency the Champion Hill Stadium sits, and whose support for this campaign has been invaluable, and the noble Lord Kennedy of Southwark, who has been raising this issue in the other place and ensuring that there are very few parliamentarians who are unaware of the issues facing Dulwich Hamlet and who have not been photographed wearing the club's scarf. I would finally like to thank the Dulwich Hamlet Supporters Trust, the Dulwich Hamlet Football Club, and the many of my constituents who have written to me about this issue, as well as thousands who turn up to Champion Hill regularly to support the team. I will speak today about community, a local community emblematic of the diversity and cohesion that makes London so great, and a national community galvanised by the same ideals as our pocket of South East London. Dulwich Hamlet FC are not unique in their current struggle. Their cause has received support from around the world, both from the football community and, significantly, from many who are not archetypal fans of the game, but who recognise the immense community value that it brings.
Can I first of all congratulate her on this wonderful idea, promoting young people's access to sport, and could I also say in this debate how important it is when we have so much knife and gun crime, that this provides a really meaningful outlet for young people and older people as well.
Thank you.
I thank my honourable friend for her intervention. She makes a very powerful point about the role that football can play, and I will come on to some of those issues a little later. There are similar stories from the football community across the country, from Skelmersdale to Merthyr, Torquay, Hereford and Coventry. Communities are fragile, and the spaces and institutions that bring people from a diverse range of backgrounds together can be rare. Local football clubs provide this focus, an opportunity for friendships to be developed and bonds strengthened through the sharing of the passion that football inspires.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way and for securing this debate. I've had many of my constituents contact me about Dulwich Hamlet and all spoken about their love and affinity for the club. Football clubs are often, as you say, the linchpin of communities, but are coming increasingly under threat from buyouts like what we've seen in Dulwich. Do you agree with me that the government should look at strengthening protections for these community assets?
I thank my honourable friend for her intervention. I do indeed agree that there is more that can be done to protect these powerful institutions. When such institutions are lost, they may be gone forever. We must do all that we can to keep them alive. The government may argue that it cannot intervene in the commercial or legal affairs of any individual club, but the situation at Dulwich is not individual. It is representative of a much wider problem. One where short-term financial gain seeks to assert itself over an institution valued not just in pounds and pence, but people, friendship, aspiration and history. This year...
I'm really pleased that my honourable friend has brought this up. And the Hamlet has got a lot of affection. A lot of people respect the Hamlet. But this is actually bigger and wider than that club. If we don't have grassroots football, if we don't have the small teams like Hayes and Yeading in my part of the world, where we had players like Les Ferdinand and Paul Merson starting, how are we actually going to get that channel into the higher leagues? Without teams like the Hamlet, we are not going to have top-tier football. The Secretary of State is a great sportswoman. She supports a team in North London, the name of which forgets me. But without teams like the Hamlet, we wouldn't have teams like Spurs. Would you agree?
I thank my honourable friend for his intervention, and I agree wholeheartedly with his remarks. This year, Dulwich Hamlet celebrated its 125th anniversary. The historic first formal meeting of Hamlet Old Boys and founder Pa Wilson took place on Friday the 28th of January 1893 at the Dulwich Hamlet Elementary School in Dulwich Village. The team eventually settled at Champion Hill in 1902, the same year both Manchester United and Real Madrid were founded. It's been there ever since. Dulwich Hamlet has a long history and a strong and proud heritage. They are four-time Amateur Cup winners. Two Hamlet players, Edgar Cale and Bert Coleman, earned full England caps, and in 1948 Champion Hill was used for the London Olympics, hosting football just as the neighbouring Herne Hill Velodrome in my constituency hosted cycling. It's not been all plain sailing over the years. The club faced closure in the 1960s, and in the 1980s they gave up their old ground to ensure there was a future and a new stadium. But Dulwich Hamlet is far more than just a football club. It is part of the very fabric of the local community through its inclusive and accessible approach to football, its social activities supporting good causes, and through the many initiatives led through the club and its army of volunteers, from Dulwich to Dunkirk and to Syria. One fan told of his days as a beat bobby in South East London and how Dulwich Hamlet and its loyal supporters, the Rabble, came together to engage the local youngsters, providing school competitions, role models and an alternative to getting into trouble. Just one of countless initiatives the club has led in the community. Under current manager Gavin Rose, who is in the gallery today, the Aspire Academy has been developed and works with hundreds more young people every year. 35 players from the academy have moved into the professional game. But Aspire is not just about success on the field, though it is certainly that. It is not just about developing better players. Aspire also tries to instil in our young people the importance of becoming better members of their community. I am proud of the many young people from Aspire who have not gone on to make a career in football, but who have become outstanding citizens. The Academy's work is not limited to young people, however. In recent years, it has seen the club host a groundbreaking match against the Stonewall 11 in support of LGBT rights. They arrange food bank collections, have sent aid to refugees in Calais, and I have with me today a special edition scarf to celebrate 100 years of women's suffrage. The list goes on. So Dulwich Hamlet have a strong community identity. It is a family club that has brought pleasure and admittedly some pain to generations of supporters. It is very often the first club that children attend because it is local, family-friendly and has a great community feel. Dulwich Hamlet FC fans mainly live nearby and are part of our wider local community. They are rightly proud of the way that they have grown to become a central part of that community, and they are recognised for what they are doing. The efforts made by the club and all of its volunteers to ensure that the club connects with all parts of our local community were recognised in 2016 when they were awarded the Football Foundation Community Club of the Year at the National Game Awards in London. Everyone wants to keep the club that way, and given the chance, I know that they can do even more. Dulwich Hamlet has business sponsors and partners who back the club financially or put up posters and display their scarves because of the positive image the team has in the local community and the benefit the supporters bring to local businesses. The club is heading in the right direction. As recently as 2008-2009, the club saw average attendances of just 180. This has risen to more than 1,500 this season, proving the sustainability of the club and the impact that it has on the community. So Dulwich Hamlet have much to celebrate, currently sitting third in the league and chasing a promotion to the Conference South. But off the pitch, the picture is entirely different. The club was acquired by Meadow Partners with operating partner Hadley in 2014. They took day-to-day control of the club and paid off a significant number of debts which had come very close to driving the club into bankruptcy. The company made no secret that they were looking to redevelop some or all of the current ground, with the club being moved to more appropriate facilities nearby. They publicly stated that giving the club a long-term future was an integral part of their plans. In the March of 2016, an application to redevelop the ground was submitted to Southwark Council. The plans included provision for 155 new dwellings, as well as a new stadium for the club to be built on metropolitan open land, which would be handed over to Dulwich Hamlet FC for fan ownership. But there was no planning policy designation for residential use on that site, and of course the very strong planning protection of metropolitan open land. So essentially there was no clear policy framework against which the council could determine the application. In December 2017, a planning appeal was lodged by Meadow on the grounds that Southwark Council had failed to reach a decision within the required timescale. Subsequent legal wrangling between the developer and the council over the football club's lease resulted in costs thought to be around £320,000 being awarded against the club, who played no role in the legal case, and ultimately to the developer withdrawing the planning appeal. Following the withdrawal of the planning appeal, the developer announced that they had withdrawn all financial support and management for the football club since, in their opinion, there was no chance of them being able to build on the part of the site which was the subject of the dispute concerning the lease. In 2017, Meadow demanded that the football club sign a new lease to continue playing on Champion Hill or face being evicted. Most recently, things have accelerated further. Dulwich Hamlet have been locked out of their ground, including access to their club merchandise, historic memorabilia and the War Memorial. In a bizarre turn of events, Dulwich Hamlet FC have even had their own name, nickname and initials registered as a trademark and were told not to use them. And although I understand that there may have been some progress on this issue in the last few days, it is nevertheless the case that Dulwich Hamlet found themselves last week without a home and without a name, putting at risk their historic ground and the basis for all the wonderful work they do. Mr Deputy Speaker, none of this is necessary. There are a number of alternative options on the table from potential investors interested in doing the right thing, safeguarding the club and building much-needed social housing. Southwark Council have made a strong commitment to the club, including taking a formal decision this week that they would make capital funding available to acquire the site. But not every club benefits from such a strong and vocal support base and a strong and committed council. The situation developing at Champion Hill is unfortunately far from an isolated situation. Across the country, we are seeing clubs whose communities face losing access to vital sports grounds or that have been adversely affected by stadium land deals. After all, many football clubs, particularly in London and not only at non-league level, have found themselves homeless and in some cases merged or out of business after falling victim to the ambitions of property developers. I give way.
Bob Stewart. Could I ask the Honourable Lady, I know time is of the essence, what exactly the Honourable Lady, would like the government to do to help the club?
I thank the Honourable Member for his intervention. If he bears with me for just a couple of minutes, I will come to exactly those points. There is a significant housing crisis in London. At least 50,000 new homes a year are needed in London just to keep up with demand. And the unavoidable fact is that football clubs commonly sit on large, expensive sites and are often considered less valuable than the ground beneath them. This is not an argument against building new homes, which are essential, but as new homes are being built, we must also take care of the fabric of communities, the institutions and the places that knit people together. It is this value that is never captured on the developer's balance sheet. In London, the list of clubs which are under pressure is depressingly long. In recent years, Enfield FC, Edgware Town, Hendon FC and Thurrock have all lost their historic homes. And away from London and the South East, where the pressure on housing and the value of land is not always so acute, the story continues. Northampton Town, Kettering Town, Torquay, Skelmersdale, Coventry and Merthyr, to name just a few, are all facing battles to survive as the property developers circle. As with Dulwich Hamlet, these teams are very much a part of their communities. In a symbol of the solidarity and community which exists across the world of local football, Dulwich Hamlet will play out their remaining games this season at arch-rival Tooting and Mitcham's ground, and the club has had messages of support from countless teams across the country. More can be done to stop the situation at Dulwich Hamlet happening to other clubs, and I would like to end by making a number of asks of the Minister today. First, will she commit to an urgent audit of the premises of league and non-league football grounds and stadia across the country and quantify the extent and nature of the threat which is exemplified by the situation at Dulwich Hamlet? Second, will she use that information to make the case to her colleagues at the Ministry for Housing, Communities and Local Government for greater protection to be afforded to league and non-league football grounds, perhaps using the protections introduced by Labour to safeguard school playing fields as a model? Third, will she review how it could possibly come to pass that a developer was able to register the trademark of a 125-year-old football club, seemingly without regard to the live and continuous use of the club's name? How could this decision possibly have been approved by the Intellectual Property Office? Will she take steps to ensure that no other football clubs can be threatened with the loss of their identity in this way? Fourth, will she look at the redistribution of funding within the football world from the Premier League to grassroots football, without which the Premier League will be starved of the talent it needs to be sustained?
Would you want to relate the point? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt the Honourable Lady because she's made an incredibly powerful case and I know that the Minister will be very, very keen to respond. But I hope she'd actually pay credit to the Football Foundation, who are doing a great deal of work in redistributing money. I appreciate that one of the problems with British football is that there is a lot of money at the top and not a lot at the feeder clubs. But the Football Foundation, in my opinion, I think in the opinion of many of my colleagues, are doing a really, really good job for grassroots football.
I thank my honourable friend for his intervention. He makes a very important point, which is well made. Finally, will she progress reforms to ensure that the fit and proper persons test must apply to non-league ownership, some form of bond be attached to any acquisition, and explore how fans can play a greater protective role in the ownership and governance of league and non-league football clubs? For Dulwich Hamlet, the immediate solution is simply for the club to be given its home back. The current breakdown of trust and relationship between Meadow, the council and the club is of grave concern. I believe it would be better for everyone, including Meadow, for the land to be sold at fair market value on terms which guarantee a sustainable future for the club. I hope the Minister will also join me in calling on Meadow to re-engage with the council and the club and to negotiate a way forward which places a secure future for Dulwich Hamlet Football Club at its historic home, Champion Hill, as the highest priority. Mr Deputy Speaker, forward the Hamlet.
Minister Tracy Crouch.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and I thank my honourable friend for securing time for this debate. And I pay credit to the efforts that she and others have made to bring to attention the issues at Dulwich Hamlet, which are rightly causing considerable local concern. I'm not sure there was anything in the honourable lady's passionate speech and the interventions of colleagues that I disagreed with. Dulwich Hamlet Football Club have been part of the local community for 125 years. They started life just like my two teams of Chatham Town and Tottenham Hotspur in the Southern League. And I was, when I lived in Herne Hill, I was in fact an occasional visitor myself to Champion Hill. So while the club may not have gone on to the dizzy heights of the Lily Whites, their standing in non-league football today cannot be underestimated. They currently sit near the top of the Bostik League with a dedicated home following of nearly 2,000. This is relatively unheard of for a team that resides in the 7th tier of English football. And that's alongside all the brilliant academy work that the Honourable Lady referred to. It is a massive shame, therefore, that at a time when we should be celebrating the achievements of this unique club, we are here because of a deep concern for its immediate future. What is disappointing is that those concerns almost entirely operate outside the club's management control and its on-field performance. Instead, they involve the intersection of land ownership, planning consent and the issue of community regeneration. Quite frankly, Mr Deputy Speaker, it's turned into an utter mess. On the one side, we have Meadow Partners, the owners at Champion Hill, and their plans to redevelop the site. And on the other side, Southwark Council have not accepted the planning application for reasons that are best explained by them. And it's not for me to take sides in the planning dispute, but what I will say is that it's hugely disappointing that in this instance, it is the football club that is stuck in the middle, and it is them and the fans who are the victims in all of this. That's not right. Football clubs remain a matter of great importance to their local communities, and we should never underestimate their value. Every care must be taken by their owners and stakeholders to safeguard their long-term future. Indeed, it is the special place football clubs hold in our communities and the need to preserve them at all costs that I want to focus my attention on today. And firstly, with regards to Dulwich Hamlet, I understand that Southwark Council have asked their Director of Regeneration to start negotiations with Meadow over the sale of the site. Those negotiations must ensure that the needs of the club are protected. Now, should these negotiations fail, and it is quite clear that there remains something of an impasse, then I will look to find and appoint an independent mediator who can facilitate the constructive talks needed between all parties and in the process help secure a future for this well-supported community club for many years to come. Now, I appreciate that Dulwich Hamlet is not the only football club to have suffered as a result of a land or stadium development dispute. We need to learn lessons from this dispute where there is separation in the ownership of the club to that of the stadium. Without preempting this, one lesson may be that clubs must be supported to insist on proper contractual agreements with ground owners that make the terms of residence, roles and responsibilities transparent and sustainable. I'll be sitting down with the Football Association to ascertain what further steps they can take to help their member clubs engaged in similar situations and prevent further breakdowns between clubs and landowners. I will recommend that the FA begin by speaking to the fan organisation Supporters Direct, who has shown an interest in carrying out a review into the extent to which football stadiums in the English League system are separated from the ownership of their clubs who are primary users. Further awareness of ground ownership, I believe, will help provide clarity for fans around the ownership structures of their club and an understanding of potential risk of stadia disposal. With better information of the risks, fans can ask the right questions of the right people at regular intervals. Now, this approach fits with the government's work with fan organisations and the football authorities in recent years to help strengthen football supporter ownership and engagement. And with regard to the ask put forward by the member for Dulwich and West Norwood, it will almost certainly throw up considerations around the local planning process and the role of local council into protecting football stadiums. And I will take a further action to speak to colleagues at the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government to see how they can engage in this process. I will also follow up on the point that she made around trademarks, and I will write to her subsequent to that. The football authorities have done much work on regulations around owners and directors. It may be that regulation in place for football ground ownership needs to also be strengthened as undeveloped land increasingly becomes a financial asset. Members of this House will of course remember Wimbledon's controversial move to Milton Keynes all those years ago. And Wimbledon stands as a reminder of what can happen when a dispute over a football stadium results in the loss of a club to its community. The Wimbledon case did, however, lead to the football authorities strengthening their rules, which now ensure plans are in place for clubs to remain in the towns and cities that bear their name. The current and frustrating events at Dulwich Hamlet are a prompt for proper consideration of the regulations that exist in relation to stadium ownership and encompass the better protection of all clubs. In the meantime, the immediate priority is for Dulwich Hamlet to fulfil its fixtures for the remainder of the season, and my personal thanks go to Tooting and Mitcham for their offer to ground share. But I fully expect all parties to sit down and try and find a solution that works and, importantly, has the football club as its primary consideration. I urge all parties to work to a solution now, and as I said, if they need someone to mediate and adjudicate, then I will find someone. However, I hope that it doesn't come to that and a solution can be found by the start of next season. But in the meantime, Mr Deputy Speaker, I wish the club and its supporters the very best for the rest of this season and thank the Honourable Lady for her excellent advocacy on behalf